Good morning, all, or happy lunchtime for my friends in Southdowns and others of you living in the future. And a special happy birthday to Raven, who's out there watching today. And welcome to Kal-bardr's Corner for this episode of Coffee with Kal. I am Baron Kal-bardr Gellir, Companion of the Meridian Cross, Companion of the Argent Comet, Companion of the Compostela, and Reaper, coming to you live from the Barony of the Osprey on the southern coast of Meridies. Now, for this episode, we have the return of she who makes my brain hurt and enjoys every second of it. The fantastic, the world-renowned, the drinker of White Claws, Her Grace, Sir Helga Skjaldmaer. Good morning, Your Grace.
Good morning. I like how you couldn't actually say White Claw without choking.
I can't. It's just terrible. I don't know how you. No.
They're delightful and refreshing.
Just like you.
Just like my personality.
There you go. So, for those who are newer to the channel, who don't know you, please introduce yourself. Let us know why you're awesome.
One, we can argue about the awesome point, but two, so I'm Helga, Helga Skjaldmaer. I'm from the West Kingdom. I am. Oh god, I always hate dropping titles. So I'm a pelican, I'm a knight, and I'm a duchess. So I've been playing since I was about 16 years old, with big breaks in there off and on. And so I've basically grown up in the SCA. I mean, what else do you want to know about me? I paint shields. I'm sassy as fuck.
Sassy as fuck. Spice sprinkles for days.
Spice sprinkles for days. Yeah. I drink White Claw. You know.
Out of, you know what? Fuck it. We're gonna start here. Go ahead and pull it out. Go ahead and show it. Go ahead and grab it because I know it's sitting there.
What?
She showed me this before the show, and I have to share this with all of you. A fair warning: there's a dick on screen about to happen. Go ahead, Helga. Go ahead.
You have to have a dick cozy for your White Claw.
I just don't. Yep. Okay. All right. Enough of that. All right. Moving on. So,
I mean, it'll hold a Red Bull too.
That's fair. Which will also kill me either way. So either way I die. Works out. All right. So before we actually get into the topic today, let's talk about our coffee. And then I've got some trigger warning to throw up, although I've already had a dick on the screen. So at this point, what do you do?
You already have me on screen. You probably should have thrown that trigger warning earlier.
I should have started with hold on, just put that up there. All right. So as this show is coffee themed, we have to talk about our beans. So I have family coming over today, so I've started drinking a little early, at least in name. Today I have the White Russian from Odyssey Coffee. It is one of my favorites, and Odyssey Coffee, as always, delivers. Support your local vendors. They're amazing people. Odyssey Coffee is the best. And, of course, out of my Feed the Ravens mug from my Westie Besties, one of which is here with me. So.
You were doing good things.
What about you, Helga? What are you drinking?
Whatever was near the Keurig.
Why do I try?
was drinking until 2 o'clock in the morning. I like you. I'm awake right now.
I appreciate you.
But yeah, so and it's actually out of one of my favorite mugs. Again, we're gonna have another dick on screen.
Yeah, hold on. Let me spotlight this because it's a good one. That, my friends, is a flying dick mug.
Mm-hmm. So I'm a part of the Wobbly H. And for presents this year, I had, because we play beer pong, and so I had period red solo cups made with our logo on it. And so everybody got theirs this weekend because we're all together.
That's amazing.
So it's a really good coffee cup. It's huge.
I was gonna say that's a pretty standard. That's a pretty substantial cup. Also, I like the red solo cup reference to that from.
Oh yeah, it's and that way we can play beer pong because we made 10 of them, so we can just set it up.
Are you not concerned this one's going to get so something's going to get broken? Because I would be concerned they're going to get broken.
Then you just make new ones. Support your local artists.
That's right. Buy more mugs, right?
Buy more mugs.
I will admit. So my Feed the Ravens mug had its first event recently. I was so scared to take it out in public. I use it for this show and it goes back on the shelf. I've been so scared I'm going to break it. I was like, you know what? It's got to go. So it went to an event and it survived.
Just remember, pottery comes from the earth and will return to the earth, and then you can support your friends again.
That's true. It's true. I want it to last more than a minute because I break shit. My mother didn't let me use glasses growing up because we would break them.
I mean, we managed to make these last a weekend, so.
With drinking involved too.
Both days.
So, all right. Let's get into this because I think we're gonna have some deep topics today. So, first of all, some trigger warnings out there. For anybody who's never watched Helga and I on screen before, so we did the Unpack Your Shit show, and that got into some brain widgets and weasels and whatnot. Fair warning: there's going to be some mental health talk in this. There's going to be a lot of deep dives into our psychologies. If you're not into that, I appreciate you watching. Go ahead and just click off now because it's going to get deep. But if you're still here, I appreciate you, and let's see what happens.
I mean, it's going to get deep. That's what she said.
Yeah. So, Helga, a couple months ago, a month ago, it's been a minute now, but you put out a post that I read and was like, all of this. And I guess I want to talk about that, but also let's talk about a little bit about your last, I don't know, few months of your various profiles and sort of some of that, because I think a lot of that plays into what we're talking about today. But the topic is being yourself. And I know that's a very short topic for a whole lot to talk about today.
Yeah.
So, go ahead. Start us off.
Okay, so it actually starts off with because I've been in the SCA for many, many years, and as a kid, I grew up in a relatively emotionally turmoil-based house, mundanely, with a mildly abusive background. I will save you guys from all the details on that, but what it turned into is that I'm a chameleon. And I'm a very loud, big personality, but I learned to dull myself down so I could be acceptable to a group. And I could be safe among a group and or not be singled out. And I say that and I'm literally wearing peacock colored hair and have facial piercings and everything else like that. But because of that, it's affected my entire life. Is when you learn how to blend like that, you learn how to sacrifice your own personality to a persona so that you're accepted within a group, and then you're relatively safe and not singled out. And so that behavior has followed me my entire life. And so the last couple months, it got really, really bad. And my work to SCA to life balance was really everybody's work to SCA to life balance has gone to shit. We're in a pandemic. But mine got really bad. And I worked in a law office where I managed my friends who were also in the SCA. And in all of this, what I started doing is all the lines went away between every piece of my world. And so I almost quit the SCA. I almost resigned my peerages. Mind you, there were some mental health issues going on with all of that. And I love my students to death because my students basically saved my ass. But how I first started dealing with it is I made a secondary Facebook profile to kind of start that separation, where there's one that was cool, this one's Helga and this one's Araya, and I'm gonna go over here and I'm gonna be myself because nobody has expectations on that, and they can just deal with the fact that I'm an asshole and that I'm opinionated and everything else like that. And that lasted the whole of about 3 months. And in that 3 months, yes, I was seeking mental health professionals help, blah blah blah. I'm not doing this all on my own and being stubborn. I actually
Which, by the way, I'm proud of you for that. Let me just say that. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. And did a bunch of work. And in the end, I came up to the conclusion that both Helga and Araya are the same creature, and that I need to stop attempting to be consumable, to be acceptable. Because that's and again, this will probably be a lifelong thing that I deal with, is slowly falling back into that. We all have cycles. We all have our own internal toxic cycles that we relive constantly, and we just get better and better about dealing with them. And this was kind of a breakthrough. So I ended up, I quit my job. And it is quit / got laid off / a bunch of things, because there was a really bad day in there. And in that, I made a post about the fact that I need to stop making myself consumable, and that it's okay that people don't like me. Because at this point in time, I don't need to survive. I need to thrive. And if I continue to choose the survival path versus thriving, I'm just going to relive my own toxic cycles and not allow myself to grow past literally childhood trauma that I keep just recycling with a different face or name on it.
Right.
So there you go. There's Fear Deep. I'm going to have some coffee now.
There you go. Drink a little. So I think there's a couple things in there I really want to dig into. So, like, first of all, so to go back into some of the history of the last, obviously this last 2 years has been shitty for everybody. We've had various coping mechanisms. You know, your like public face grew significantly more than mine did, and you already had a giant public face, anyways, being a triple peer in the society and things like that. So, with between two peers blowing up like it did, your sort of reach became much larger, and that I'm sure didn't help with the need for separation, right? Plus, you're working with multiple people that you were also involved in on the show with, and drama from. FYI, people, these shows have drama behind them. This is a business like any other, and there's going to be interpersonal politics, especially when you're dealing with your friends, but also trying to run a business. FYI. That's why a lot of what I've done has been myself doing it so that I don't have to deal with a lot of that.
Well, and I'll tell you that, like, Sassy and I, like my co-host, are solid. Like, there was a couple times where we'd have different ideas of where we wanted to go, but her and I have been friends for so freaking long that it's just like, oh, okay, cool. Like, well, this show will run this idea and this show will run this idea, and we'll see how it goes, and we'll play. Right. Because Between Two Peers was like literally like we threw it out into the universe, and it was like, okay, people are watching this. What?
oh God, there's 700 people watching this. There's like, yeah. Just break your brain for a second. Go ahead. I'll get a couple digs in now early. Yeah.
You're drinking a White Claw with me for that.
Yeah, I'm down. But yeah, but even though, so like, there's always going to be those bits where people don't agree. And with y'all have like 10 people involved in that show, there's always going to be interpersonal politics. So that didn't help. And then with a lot of you working together and your own mental health stuff that you're dealing with, like, plus the pandemic on top of that, and we start doing more SCA stuff, right? So you're involved in multiple peerage meetings, stuff going on. There's a lot of conversations happening, and you as a knight having to stand up in the middle of a whole bunch of knight bullshit going on, right? Having to be the example of the good in the bad. You had a lot of shit to deal with that a lot of us didn't have to, either publicly or privately. So, like, I understood the separation. I understood the need for it, especially with some of the SCA like policies changing. Like, I disagree with the reason some people did that idea, but whatever. But I saw the initial need. I was like, okay, I see what people are doing. I see why they're doing that. I disagree with it personally, but I see some people's reasoning. And then I read your post, and I was like, damn, that hits me hard. And I was like, and that's why I finished reading it and then immediately messaged you. I was like, I want to do a show about this. I know you're like, because you and I have talked a couple times over the last 6 months, and I know you've been going through stuff. So I've been giving you the space you wanted. Like I haven't bugged you about shows as much as I've wanted to. Like, I love doing shows with you, so I want to be on camera. I want to have these conversations. But I was like, I want to do this show, whether it's today or in 6 months. I want to do this show. And you happily agreed, and I'm happy you're here for this. The thing that got me in it is the lack of separation, right? So we've talked about personas, and we've talked about, like, I know you
Do you want to read the quote?
Huh?
Do you want to read the quote?
Yeah. Do you have it pulled up quickly? I don't, because I don't have it pulled up. All right, I'll do. Let me talk, and I'll pull that up while I talk. So I say personas, and like a lot of the Westies go, what? Because you guys don't really have a lot of separation, whereas there's some folks further east have a persona that's a character they built out for the SCA that's it, right? And so there is a distinct difference. I have a persona. So Kal-bardr obviously is not my real name, and I'm not a Scythian nomad from the 11th BC, whatever, but what you see in an event of Kal-bardr is just Richard. There's no difference there. It's me in a funny hat and funny clothes, which frankly, it's just different funny hat and funny clothes. Like, if you see me in my modern life, I'm wearing funny hat and funny clothes usually. So, but there wasn't a separation there for me. And I realized that that's what this is talking about, is the idea that there's not a separation between what we are in the SCA and who we are mundanely, because one influences the other, even if there's a candy coating on it.
Yep.
All right, 2 seconds. I'm scrolling through your Facebook page because you've posted a lot recently. Now I've got to find it.
Why didn't you just go to the event page? You quoted me on it.
God damn it! That would be smarter, Helga. That's why I didn't do that. I forgot I put it in there.
Are you sure that coffee's not laced with a little stiffness there?
I got hit in the head a lot yesterday. Okay, don't make fun of me.
I'm making fun
better.
of you.
I know. Block better. I got it.
Monday. I'm making fun of you Monday for that.
That's fine. Yeah, that's true. That's a whole different show. Oh, that's gonna suck. I'm looking forward to it, but it's gonna. So, spoiler alert. I'm good. Helga and I will be on another show. That's tomorrow. Fuck me. That's tomorrow.
I got to make sure I'm off the road by that time.
Yeah, that's gonna be fun. We'll plug that later though. But yeah, we're doing a show tomorrow with His Majesty Sean. Fancy. All right, the quote here. Okay. All right, so while we all have to understand that our actions, words, and deeds have impacts on others, we also cannot fall into the trap of watering down ourselves to be palatable for everyone to consume. It is a balance of life, being yourself, while knowing it will create both love and hate for you to consume from others. All right, I'm going to pop this into the chat as well, so everybody can read that.
What, in the chat? That seems like logical and shit.
Hold on. You know what? I can even do this. It's two things. It's too many things. It's too many words. You said too many words, Helga. Yep, too many words. Okay. Well, it's in the chat in 2 pieces, so read it.
Yep.
So the idea of a persona, right? So we get to pick a fake name and a fake person to put on the SCA. And previously, when the internet wasn't a thing or Facebook wasn't as relevant in the SCA, that separation was much more there. So, you know, the person you see at the event may not be the person you see on the weekends, which is sometimes a good thing. You see people that are doctors, lawyers, nurses in their mundane lives and come into the SCA and they're just hang out party girls and want to just enjoy their lives because they're so stressed during the weekend. We see this in other communities as well. You know, also knows what we're talking about, knows what I'm talking about. But yes, the Facebook generation of the SCA broke that barrier because now we're seeing that this asshole is an asshole in real life, but he's a sugar-coated asshole in the SCA. We don't see the asshole, we see the sugar-coating, right? And that's a good thing. I'm glad we know this now. But those of us who are not assholes, I know, I know you call yourself one, and I do occasionally as well, but who are relatively good people, I'd like to think I am, in our mundane lives and in the SCA, there's not a separation for that, right? Yep. And one of the things that I know is harder for the peers, and I want to hear your thoughts on this, is being that peer, like being the peer people expect you to be, but also still being yourself, right? Like that's the thing, and that's being yourself. Tag on the show there. So what's your what's that separation for you? Like, why did you see it initially that you needed the separation?
So I needed the separation initially because I didn't have the space to figure myself out.
Okay.
So this is a thing that we're going to go down a interesting mental rabbit hole for a moment. Is occasionally we don't allow ourselves to step back and assess, and so sometimes you must yeet yourself so you can assess. And that was my action, was I needed to separate enough and create basically a safer emotional space for me to be like, what do I actually need to do besides just rage quitting everything? Right. Because that's never the help. If you're about to rage quit everything, that's telling yourself that you've crossed boundaries miles down the road. Like, you're way past your own boundaries there. And so initially I did the separation, not because of the SCA policy. I can give a fuck about that policy. I think that policy is perfectly fine. But one of the things that I had to do was literally get away from the idea that everything I do, somebody's going to fangirl on. Because I need to be imperfect. Right. I need to actually have a couple friends tell me, like, look, you're fucking up right now. And not have somebody come in and try to defend it. And that isn't like making posts or anything else like that. That was just like literally divorcing myself from some of the conversations. Like, I unfollowed every SCA group that I was in. Like, because there's so much infighting. And there's so much, like, right now, the internet highlights some of the really good things and the really bad things. Mm-hmm. And my brain was only seeing the bad. Like, we create our own news feeds, and we create, like, our brain will then suss out what noise it actually wants to process. And at that point, my mental health was at where I was only reading the bad. Like, I was only, like, my brain was drawn to that because it was reinforcing the cycle. So what I did is yeet myself out of the cycle so I could step back and create the space to come back into things and be like, oh no, I was literally just missing all the good.
Right. For anybody who's ever, there's a common version of this when if you buy a new red car, you see all the red cars now. You see all the Toyotas. You see, like, the whatever thing you own, you now see all of them. They were there before. Nothing has changed in the world, but you're now seeing it differently because of your perception of it. So that's the same idea, is that you were seeing the bad because that's all you knew was the bad. That's all you were feeling was the bad.
Yeah.
I get that.
It's a common thing. We reinforce our own depression by hunting down what makes us depressed. And so that whole thing there was, I think that some people, so we've actually touched like 7 different topics. So I'm gonna kind of ramble and you can like push me back on the track.
This is what we do, Helga. I'm not surprised.
Totally is. So the idea of a persona in the West Kingdom really doesn't exist.
Right.
Like, you have a name. We make jokes that we don't have personas, we have garb. Because, like, I've got late German, I've got early Rus, I've got Scythian stuff, like, I've got all these other things, and it kind of depends on my personality for the day, what garb I'm wearing. And so in the West, or the West Coast, a lot of the times you don't see people develop personas. It's really like it's your character sheet. Like, I love that idea. That it's when you join the SCA, you kind of get a restart. And you get to redefine your own character sheet and build that person. And for me, Helga and Araya should be the same people. Like, and this goes, we're going to now go back onto the track of, like, the SCA and the internet, the age of the internet. I call it the thinning of the veil. I actually wrote a blog post on it at one point. Is the internet just thinned the idea that we are different people on the weekend. And realistically, I don't want my peers to be sugar-coated assholes. I don't want to be a sugar-coated asshole. I want to be a peer in my mundane life as well as in the SCA. And so, does it make it possibly harder to become a peer? Yeah, it does. Like, if you won't say something on your Facebook because you might get fired from your job, that also might affect your damn life in your hobby. Like, it's not different at all. It's a volunteer organization. None of us are paid to show up. Not a single person in this society is paid to show up. We choose to show up. So what we put on the internet, we are also choosing to show to all the other people that are not being paid to show up. Nobody's being paid to put up with their bullshit. Like, literally, it actually should be almost a higher consequence rate than our jobs, where we're paid to provide a good and service to somebody. Like, that's it.
Because there are some jobs where, okay, yeah, this guy's an asshole, but he's super good at digging that ditch. He can cuss up a storm as long as he keeps digging that ditch. I don't care, right?
Yeah.
But if your job is customer service and you don't shower and are an asshole all the time, well, I don't want you doing customer service anymore. There's an obvious need there. So obviously things like not showering is pretty obvious in person, but being the asshole is very easy to mask for a 36-hour period or a 48-hour period.
No, I mean, and also one of the things is I don't think that we moved past the Dear Diary stage.
Yep.
And Facebook is not Dear Diary. It's not something that, is sitting on your bed table that is like your secret terrible thoughts, or like your secret like this person, like I would totally like to see them naked, or like anything else like that. It is not your internal monologue. Facebook is a fucking billboard. Any social media platform is a billboard of what you're putting out there. I mean, you think it's easy to lie for 36 hours about who you are? It's super easy to lie about who you are on the internet.
Right.
Wait, catfishing exists for a reason. There is literally a keyboard. Like, you could turn yourself into anything. And so when people turn themselves into assholes, I actually just believe them.
Right.
Because, okay.
Well, I mean, it's a conscious choice they're making at that point. So either it's just true, and that's just who they are. Good, cool, good to know. Or they're making a conscious choice to be an asshole. Regardless, I don't want to be involved with them. Now, to pair something you said there. So yeah, so Facebook is not your diary. Everybody sees it. This includes private groups and private messages. Screenshots exist, folks. Just understand that. So when someone shows that, right? So for you, what is like your initial reaction? Like, what are you doing about that? Like, how do you deal with your other peers, and how do you deal with sort of that reaction of this person I've known for 30 years as a great person in the SCA is now an asshole because I've seen them for 2 years online?
So I think right now within the pandemic, there's going to be a little bit of like, we all need to re-socialize ourselves. There's a lot of stress. And when there's a lot of stress, there's a lot of weird behaviors that come out of people. And so like, if you showed yourself as a racist asshole online, I'm going to assume that you're a racist asshole online. And in real life, like, I'm sorry. But if you said a couple like off-color things, I'm going to have an adult conversation with you. Right. And be like, hey, like, I respect the shit out of a bunch of other stuff you did, but there was this really weird interaction. What's up? Like, was it a bad day? Was it like, what are you doing to make amends? Like, those things. Because one of the things that I think we do too quickly, and this goes into watering ourselves down. So we're going to like go back to the quote for a moment and mix this two things. So we water ourselves down to be consumable because it's safety. So, and in safety means we don't have to apologize because we're watered down enough, then we're just accepted the way we are. When we are actually our true selves, we're going to have to apologize occasionally, and we're going to have to own that. And we're going to also have to understand that our true selves at any given time, there's going to be people that don't like it, and you're going to basically suffer the consequences of it. The question is, are you willing to do that? Because like, I realize that I'm boisterous. I will totally drop dick jokes, everything else like that. But because I'm willing to drop dick jokes, I also need to make sure that I'm conscientious about where. Like, is there kids around? Is there people like that? Like, is this a correct time and place to do this? So there's things like that you always kind of have to view and take into consideration before you do it. Like, it's also like, when I walk into somebody else's camp, is this a camp that I know is rowdy? Like, I'm putting myself in this position. Like, choices.
There's a sports quote that I just thought of that's, I think, relevant to this. That's you miss 100% of the shots you don't take, right?
Yeah.
So somebody who's in the basketballs, which is the one with the hoops, right? Mm-hmm. If they've got a shooting percent, if they've made, you made 100 baskets this year, cool, and that maybe not be, I don't know what numbers, whatever. That probably means they missed 100 of them, but they at least shot for 100. So in this case, so if you make 100 really good things, you're probably going to fuck up an equal amount of things, or hopefully less things. The goal is less things, right? Mm-hmm. But you're going to miss 100, at least 100 of those shots that you have to then make amends for. Whether it's through your action of improving, or action of apology, or even just admitting, yeah, I fucked that up. All right, cool. We're gonna do better now, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, I'm right now in a really big apology cycle where it's not. And apologies, by the way, apologies are fucking hollow unless you're actually owning the impact you had on other people. The last couple of months, I've been very quiet. I have not been feeding any of the relationships in my life. I have been incredibly self-focused, and it's not the excuse of that was survival. It was like, there's relationships in my life that I have affected negatively because I haven't been there.
Right.
Like, and right now it's owning that when I'm like starting to show back up and starting to, interact again and everything else like that. It's like, okay, cool. I understand this had an effect on you and I need to own that. And like, they also need the space and me to be strong enough to be like, okay, I'm listening right now about the impact I had on you because I disappeared.
Right.
Like, so that's the thing. It's like, cool. I took the shot of like, I need to do self-care, but also I need to understand that self-care and how I did it was also still not completely correct. Like, I didn't tell people like, hey, I'm disappearing. I'm doing my own thing for a little bit. I just left. So I didn't even completely do that right. So took a shot, totally made it, did the right thing. Still have some like ownership of self that I need to do in there.
But you took the shot, but you also kicked the guy in the nuts on the way down.
Yeah,
like,
right.
there's a balance there.
Foosh. Click.
Yeah.
That was definitely part of it. So I did notice that we have a bunch of questions.
Yeah, I was gonna say let's go back to some questions because good God, I love. By the way, thank you audience for actually participating in this conversation because I these are always tough when we get into these really like deep dives. Everybody's like and scared, but you guys are lovely. So
so I think actually, by the way, I'm just gonna wrap up like the first chunk before we go into this.
Yeah,
it really comes into I don't think there should be a difference between your persona you and you in real life. But however, I think you should be able to step away at some point from the persona that you've taken on from others.
Right.
Your view of me.
Yeah.
So your view of me is going to be different. Like everybody is going to perceive you differently. They create the character you are in their own head. And you can like, if you think about everybody in your universe, you don't know their internal thoughts. You don't know what's going on. And so all of us are constantly playing a guess and check against the character we have of somebody in our head. You cannot take on the persona somebody else has built for you and maintain that in a healthy manner or fashion ever. And so when you start doing that, one, you're putting yourself up on a pedestal built by somebody else. And two, you are going to fail them no matter what. So if you continue to be yourself and take a step off the fucking pedestal, what's going to end up happening is you may have some friction, but you're going to have a lot more truth within the relationship.
Walk away. Done. There you go. That was a mic drop for that. Anybody who didn't get that reference there. Okay, so have you seen? I'll let you pick the question. Where do you want to start up there? Have you seen anything you want to address?
Actually, we're going to take on Runa's question first. What if it turns out you don't actually like yourself very much?
I like that one. All right, hold on. Let me. Good God, let me find it. There you go. All right, so yeah, I read this and I was like, well, shit, that's a thing. All right, I'm amazing. I love myself, so that's not a problem for me. But what are your thoughts on that, Helga?
Rewrite your own character sheet. Yeah. Like, so part of the thing is setting mental health aside. We'll do like. Well, first we'll do the caveat of like, look, there is sometimes where our brain chemicals don't work right. That getting serotonin out of a pill is perfectly fine. And like normalize mental health treatment and like just seeking it. Like if you don't like yourself because there's a chemical imbalance in your brain, that is something that a professional needs to deal with. Right. If you don't like yourself because you are writing your own story about how bad you are, rewrite the fucking character. Like literally, again, it's that we create our own personas. We create this own idea of self around it. If you don't like something about yourself, address it. Like that's actually part of it. You don't like that you're so shy? Cool. Start taking steps. Reachable goals to changing. Like, well, I don't like how shy I am. Well, cool. Like go introduce yourself to somebody that you think is cool, but you may feel scared about doing it. Face into the fear and start addressing your own behaviors around what you don't like about yourself. Again, also probably still seek like mental health. I also realize right now it's very hard in the pandemic because the mental health industry is just fucking hammered. Yeah. But within that, one of the only ways that we can gradually deal with self-hate is by, you're not going to get the like positive affirmation thing out of me. You're not going to get the like self-love creates change. No, face into the fear about yourself and directly deal with it. You don't like how you communicate? Go pick up communication books. Like, go educate yourself on different ways to communicate with people. You don't like how shy you are? Introduce yourself to one scary person. Start breaking the cycle of fear around your own perceptions of self.
That's actually what I think started the show United with Unpack Your Shit. It was we had that discussion of I came to you as a peer that I respect, and that an extrovert in the SCA that I was like, okay, how do I do better about this? And you're like, I'm trash at this, but let's talk. That's essentially what that's where we started. You're like, I'm a garbage human, but we can do better together. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
And it took it's having this conversation, right? We chose to do them very publicly so people could watch them, because I think other people could benefit from that. But I think I've grown from that, and have also then found new shit, because like as you start unpeeling the onion, you find new trauma in there that you didn't even know you needed to deal with. So you're like, cool, I'll deal with that in a minute. All right, that's a thing we'll deal with. Okay, that's tomorrow's problem.
We're all little trauma onions.
Writes that down in the sticker list. Work on that later. Okay, trauma onions. For trauma parfaits. Everybody likes parfait.
I mean, nobody likes to deal with their trauma, so I'm really going to go with the trauma onion.
No, yeah, you're right. It's the better option.
I mean, and it's like a raw onion. It's not even like one of the ones that's like breaded and then fried.
With this, it's starting to sprout at the top. It's not like you don't want to cook it. Yeah,
this is a little like, fuck, I got to deal with that son of a bitch.
Trauma onions. So, all right. So yeah, I guess that's a great answer to the question. All right. So I like this one. Going back to the assholes in the room. How do you feel about people being drowned out when when they call out a popular asshole from the scrawling of Kal and Helga? So,
I mean,
you as a popular asshole, how do you feel about that?
Definitely a popular asshole. So we're gonna go from the popular asshole side, and I hate actually like admitting that. It feels really like, oh, I get a little like.
700 people, Helga. 700. Yeah. Love you too, baby.
I would like you to suck that. As a role of a popular asshole, we always need to be willing to be called out.
Right.
Like, Kal-bardr, as much as you don't want to admit it, you have way more word fame than most people will ever get in the society for what you've done.
I will happily admit that, and it scares me every day.
Yeah. So like both you and I need to be willing to be called out. The other thing is, like, how do you feel about people being drowned out? I don't like it. Like, I don't want, I want to make sure that as a peer, if I offend somebody, they can come to me and we can have a conversation. And part of the thing that we don't realize is, like, even when you get called out, that call out might be wrong, but also I still need to make sure that they feel heard in it. And so this is my like weird roundabout thing of like, I really feel that peers should work towards being safe to go to be, to be like, hey, you did this thing and it offended me, and be able to develop a conversation around it. Cough, cough, read crucial conversations. Every peer out there, cough, cough, and then crucial accountability, cough, cough, cough. And so, but that's one of those things is I don't think it's fair. The people that aren't popular get drowned out. It's not okay. Because again, we are an imperfect society working towards a perfect ideal. And that perfect ideal needs to be that people can come to those in power with peerages, with perceived power, anything like that, and go to them and say, hey, this occurred, and have a conversation around it. A call out is not an instantaneous thing where like somebody comes up to you and be like, I was offended by this, and this person is going to instantly change it. Again, remember, we are all our own people, and occasionally they're not going to like you. Right. But you still need to make sure that they feel heard. And that's the difference. You can still be an asshole and make sure that people around you feel heard about your behaviors versus being brushed off about them. And that is a completely different feeling for those that can come to you.
Right. Going back to what you said earlier about the our personas both in others' heads, right? So we are different people to everybody we interact with. Mm-hmm. Whether it's your significant others or the people at the grocery store, we are all different people to those people based on our interactions. So in this case, you as a person calling out a popular asshole, well, you have a different perception of them than the rest of the populace, and your perception may be correct. or at least it is correct to you because that is your perception of them, and perception is 90% of the world, frankly. I know I've had issues where I've said things that made complete sense to me in my inner circle, but made me look like a flaming asshole in public because of the lack of context for them. And yeah, I think I please call me out on those, right? I want to hear that. Even if I disagree with you, it at least makes me go, huh, is that wrong? And I'm going to think about it. I may go, okay, I see what you're saying. I disagree with your interpretation of this, or at least, from that's not what the intended, and that's not what I'm getting from most people I talk to, but I appreciate it because at least made me second guess and check it.
Also, to put a thing in there, sorry to interrupt, is if somebody is lacking context, you can't be mad at them for that. Mm. That's actually something that I think that many people failed, like being popular, quotes, having the in-joke, in quotes, being like part of an information circle and then making a wisecrack about it, and it offends somebody outside of that information circle. They actually might have the right to be offended because they don't have any of that backstory. And when that happens, you need to pump the fucking brakes and be like, okay, cool, hang on. Yes, you're offended. I'm giving you my time. I'm giving you my space. Do you want the background on this? Also, legitimate reaction to that, which again goes into like understanding the crowd you're in.
Right. And honestly, in that even though the people in that inner circle, they may be offended later by the same joke. I have a guy I went to high school with who's a black friend of mine who went to high school with, who when we growing up, he was our token black guy. That's what we called him. This was 20 years ago in high school in Southern Alabama. It was a thing. We didn't have very many of them. It's not funny now to him or frankly anybody else, but the memory of him to me is he's still token black guy. That's what he will be in my head forever. They are now different now, and you have to respect the changes of people. And so the joke we would have made 20 years ago isn't funny now. It's still funny in my head, and it's going to be funny back here forever from 20 years ago, but it's not funny today. So understand that the context, again, the context of the world changing affects the context of that joke too. Mm-hmm. So that was a lot. All right, cool. Moving on. So there was Genevieve. I was like, I always have trouble pronouncing the word Genevieve because I always want to do Genevieve or Genevieve because you don't really know what it is when you're reading it. So I always do it backwards. So anyways, thoughts on the idea that it's crucial to understand how to determine your self-worth and if it's appropriate.
I mean, isn't this the conversation about humility?
Yeah.
Own your shit, but be humble about it. So self-worth is something that is, one, culturally taught, culturally defined, and then reinforced by your friend circle. Which is the reason why we talk about, like, you surround yourself with people that will lift you up, not tear you down. Mm-hmm. And it's super hard to define self-worth because we are taught in a Western standard society that we are worthless unless we are producing something.
Because capitalism is fun.
Unbridled capitalism leads to fucking sorry. So one of the things that we need to understand is that this also ties into the mental health and people not seeking mental health and or not understanding that sometimes your self-worth is literally by sitting in a room with somebody and breathing. Right. And so we have to define our self-worth not by what we provide, but what we ourselves like hold near and dear and how we feed that in others, as well as them with us. And it doesn't matter if it's breathing in the same room with somebody or making a wildly audacious, like cool thing and handing it to somebody or anything else like that. But self-worth is literally internal. It's based on humility and faith. We want to go back to an SCA context of the virtues in me and my weird virtues. But you define it for yourself and then you maintain it by the people that you surround yourself with. And so if you're like feeling super low, again, get checked to make sure you have like the right chemical balance in your brain. But also check to make sure that you're feeding it with those you surround yourself with. I feel like it's existential as fuck.
Well, no, but I think that also goes back to the whole we create our own newsfeeds thing, right? So if we have low self-worth and we surround ourselves with people who just shit on us all day long about that we're crappy people, then you're feeding into that, and like one seeks out the other. So find better friends, I guess, is the short version of that. Find better friends that are better to you, that encourage you to be more positive, that encourage you to that you're actually worth things, that encourage you to take breaks. Fiken, who's been on the channel quite a few times, has been tech for me throughout most of the pandemic, and has also supplied me with mead to take to events, which was delightful. Put out a post today for me, and I won't go into because it gave me warm fuzzies. But one of the things he mentioned to me was that one of the times that the thing I did for him was that provide him the space when he went back to school to be valuable to KK Productions when he had time, but to not discredit him or discourage him when he didn't. Right? I gave him the open space of, here's the thing, hey man, come help when you can, but I'm not being angry towards him because he can't, and that's a thing, right? And I'm happy I did that, and I'm happy that he perceived it that way, because that was my intention. I don't know if I did it consciously, but that's the goal, right? Now that I think through it. So I think that's the thing, is find better friends that encourage you and lift you up versus pushing you down.
Oh, and then Lux just followed that up with a really good question.
All right. Oh, so pause. I want to, Jim, you have another one that I was going to address real fast because it's an easy one. I wonder if the fact that in the West we live so close together, we see each other outside events a lot, break down the idea of separate SKA personas. Yes, I have a feeling that's the case, but also the internet did this too.
Yeah.
The internet fucked this for everybody.
Yeah, the internet accelerated this process by an order of like 2 or 3 orders of magnitude.
Yeah. And it's, again, because that thing in the veil. So if you live close to people, the veil is much thinner for you because you see them at the bar, you see them at work, you see them at the post office. We now see those people at the bar and at the post office online all the time. That was the thinning of the veil there. So, all right, from Lux, how do you surround yourself with the people that will encourage you and call you out if you're not already in their circles?
Well, one, this is going to be a really interesting thing. So friendship and relationships are a multi-tier thing. You have your external friendships where you're like, you kind of pass them in the night. You have the people that you know a little bit better. And then you like inner to where you've got people that are like literally like, dear diary. And they're like, wow, that's a super fucked up thought process. Thank you for sharing it with me. Are you okay? So we've got that huge spectrum of friends. And so one of the things I would say is get rid of the idea that you need to be in somebody's close circle to be influenced by their positivity.
Right.
Like, we don't start friendships out the gate as like, dear diary. Like, if you started all your friendships with dear diary, everybody would be like, I need a lot of context about that crazy ass fucking thought you just had. Yeah, right. We're just going to scoot off screen now. And you've got people that are very raw and very open about a lot of things. And like, you'll find that they will gravitate people that need to hear that. But the idea that like you need to be in their circle to be affected by how they encourage those around them is actually, I think it's how we reinforce our own ability not to get in there. Because one of the things is like, I'm going to use Kal as an example. So Kal, like our friendship literally started by like us just geeking off together about like, hey, I've got this question, or like you posted this thing. I'm curious about that. And you'll find that some people will have space and time to reach back to you and say, yeah, no, I posted this thing, or like you commented on my post or something like that, or like you made a comment at an event around a fireplace, and like you go to later and you're like, hey, I heard this and it made me think about this. Do you have like 5 minutes that we could talk about it? And you'll find that those circles are much broader than all of us think. Like those circles of like influence that you can then get into are way bigger than our brain wants to tell us they are. Because our brain wants to tell us like, oh, I heard this person say this one thing this one time. I'd really like to ask them about that, but I'm like, I don't eat dinner with them every Tuesday, so I can't like talk to them. No, like I can probably guarantee you, most people in the SCA, we are socially awkward most of the time. We want to talk to people because we don't do it a lot. And so this is one of those things is like, look at going outside yourself and understanding that sphere of influence is probably bigger than you want to trust, and just try. And you'll be shocked, because a lot of people will be like, oh, fuck, you read that? Shit, yeah, let's talk about
it. Especially now with the internet, right? So again, Helga and I have never met in person, but we've now spent hours on camera. Sean and I only recently met in person, and we've spent hours on camera together. Nisa, the same. I was able to meet these people through the internet that I would have had zero contact with, and a lot of it, literally, Sean and I met on a happenstance in a Crapo Toast chat, and because you were like, oh, by the way, you guys are creators here, chat for a second, and we went, okay, cool. It was a random meeting. So I think now that we have the internet, if you see a thing that somebody says that you want to talk about, ping them. If you're uncomfortable pinging them, ping somebody that you know that knows them.
And this is the advantage to the thinning of the veil, is you have access to a lot more circles than we did beforehand. Like the influence circles are much more, amusingly enough, more watered down, but more accessible than they ever have been within the SCA or within fringe circles, because it's so much easier to access people.
Also, Zygmunt's a weird dude, but we're bros now. Love you, Zippy. I have a whole sticker for him. So, all right. So, our resident mental health expert out there who's been on this channel and broke my brains with that. So, in regards to self-worth and liking yourself, I also think it's important to look at the relationship with self. You're the only one with you all the time and knows your history. Again, so we're talking about the context and the backstory, all that. This all plays into this. What kind of relationship do you want to have with you, which will then manifest with others, right? So your relationships with others are based on the relationship you have with yourself.
Yep.
All of that. Thank you, Sabine. That was amazing. Let's see. We got time for like one more question, because good God, an hour runs fast for these things. This is why you and I do like multi-part episodes, because this is we talk too much.
Yeah.
When I was going to do the show, I was like, wait, this is Helga's first time on Coffee with Kal. How have we not done that yet? But it's because we've done other shows and we haven't done this one yet together.
That and I have not been around much.
Well, yeah, that's but like even before, like you didn't do any of those because we were too busy doing the other shows. So we're back now. All right, I want to scroll back to Ramut's question, Her Excellency Ramut. How do you, as a peer, and this is strictly for you, know when to speak and when to be silent?
I don't.
Yeah.
I don't speak when it would. Okay, so I pump the brakes. Let me check the humility in for a moment. Sorry. I try not to speak when it would be hurtful. When it would hurt, not help. And so that is my to be silent part. And this falls back into know thyself and understand, I am a wrathful creature. Flat out. If I'm going to have one besetting sin, wrath. And so I do not speak when I'm angry. Or I try not to really, really hard. Because when I am angry, I will go to make them pay the emotional price.
Right.
And that's not fair. That goes for at events, online, other things. It's actually one of the reasons why I left a couple of the boards, because I realized in feeding the depression, I was also feeding my wrath. And that was turning me into a toxic peer, where I expected my words to carry more weight than they should have. To fix a situation versus actually positively, basically creating the content that would change the outcome versus fighting the content that was feeding. If that makes any sense.
It's the be the change instead of say the change sort of thing.
Yes, actually, very, very much so. Also, you ain't going to get anything done by being a mean girl. You're just going to make more mean girls. And I had fallen into, I was rapidly becoming one of the toxic mean girl peers. And that was not okay. Basically bought my own press on a couple things and really needed to step away from my own ego. And that was to speak or to be silent, where I spoke wrong. And so I chose to be silent and walk away because until I could actually speak with knowing my own damage that got punched in the situation, it was better to be silent and more healthy to be silent. And that is know yourself, know your besetting sin. Because if you do that, you will choose to be silent when your brain is just like, oh, but it would be so emotionally satisfying to speak right now because they will pay the price for it later. It'll pay in dividends. No, it doesn't. It doesn't help anybody. And so that's to speak or be silent. Create the content you want, create the peer that you want to be, and speak when you're that person. Be silent when you are not.
All right. There's I say this a lot. I'm not a peer, so I will not speak directly to that. But there is a thing from the idea of the eightfold noble path of Buddhism, the idea of truth, the right speech. The truth is not truth. Just because it is accurate does not mean it is truth, right? So in this case, saying you're a flaming asshole would have been an accurate statement, right, to that person that you were mad at. But there's other parts of this of, is it helpful and is it kind, right? There's other bits, so you have to sort of dig into the more of that. So, okay, is it accurate? Yes. But is it helpful? Maybe. Is it kind? Definitely not, right? So you sort of walk through the levels of that, and there's a whole other filter analogy of the same idea as well. Yeah, so you got to break that down, and I think that's very important to speaking in a public fashion. I know part of that speaking silent is also consulting with the crown or consulting with your other peers and sort of on those topics. And I think that's from a professional perspective, I've learned to, when my manager says, this is how we're doing this, and I go, okay, and we move on, right? And then when it breaks later, I help fix it. Early on in that process, if they say, hey, I'm considering doing this way, or what do you think about this way? I'm going to give them my opinion. I'm going to show them what I think to do is correct. And then when they choose another route, I go, neat. All right, cool. And I prepare to fix it when it breaks, right? Or sort of you prepare for the worst and hope for the best. And that's what you do. So, when you're dealing with your crown or your cornet or whatever, advise them when they ask, and then prepare for the fallout when it breaks. I think that's the other half of that.
Okay, I'm going to totally jump on the
Come on.
Speak when you have space for the reaction.
Oh, yeah, I like that too.
That's one of the things is when you're going to speak on a hard topic, you must speak in a space. You must speak when you have space to hold their reaction. Basically, you are going to give them space to react to what you had to say. So if you're going to go give somebody harsh feedback, you also must prepare for their response, and not prepare like, I am pre-writing this argument in my head and then like I will respond when they respond like this. No, you need to give them the free space to process what you said and then respond, and understand it may not be a kind response, and you do not get to be reactionary to that.
Right. If you're firing the first shot, you have to settle down for the battle of that. It's not supposed to be antagonistic, but if you come at somebody with harsh reality, they're gonna react, and you have to be prepared for that. So
yeah.
All right. So we're running short on time, but I do want to bring this up, and I think we'll address this. Recommended reading for today's topics. Helga, if you want to put me together a short list, we'll post it up on the page in a little bit.
Oh yeah. So crucial conversations, crucial accountability, and breaking hate.
There you go. All right. Couple of things. So we'll do a little bit of show plugs, and then we'll close it out. So first of all, coming up next on Kal-bardr's Corner, KK Productions, we've got the holiday special. So that's this Thursday, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time. Kisa and I will be on here, and we'll be joined by lots of lovely former hosts, former tech crew, current host and tech crew, all of my lovely KK Productions family, to just have some fun, drink some mead, and enjoy our day, talk about the shows, talk about things we've done. So look forward to that, 8 p.m. Central Standard Time on Thursday. Following that, in addition to this show, so coming up sort of next in the topic line, I'll be joined by His Majesty James the Holy, talking about transparency and openness. He's been doing a lot of that recently, and sort of being open as a peer with the negative side. So this will very nicely just dovetail into this conversation. So looking forward to that. If you want to join supporting KK Productions and all we do here, and get some awesome rewards, look us up, patreon.com/KK Productions, and join the Grand Wall of Patrons. There's that. Or if you want to find us on Redbubble, search us on Redbubble, KK Productions. Find me on TikTok at Kal-bardr. I did put in the chat too, but if speaking of Redbubble, if you want to do art for trauma onions, reach out to me. There will be pay involved for that. I want that sticker to happen, and I'm a shitty artist. So reach out to me, let me know. Also, coming up tomorrow, go ahead, Helga. I'll let you pitch that one.
Coming up tomorrow, we will have Kal on a video analysis on the Coach's Corner, where Duke Sean, Duke Thorfinn, and myself are going to look at him and one other Unbelt's videos and do constructive feedback about how they can improve.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to this, but also I love you guys. So
I mean, I drop the F-bomb at least once a show.
That's expected. So
yeah.
All right. Helga, I love you. You're amazing. I miss your face.
Thank you for having me on. I feel like we went way off topic and then like kept coming back to topic. So like
anybody who expected any different was kidding themselves. So I should have just started with there. So
yeah.
All right, gang. I appreciate your time out there. I appreciate you watching this week, and always tune in Thursday. See us there. That's going to be a fun show. I'm looking forward to it. Until then, this has been Helga and Kal in Kal-bardr's Corner. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.